Welcome to Passargadae, the first capital of the Achaemenid Empire. It was founded by Cyrus of Persia. Few structures here have survived 2400 years of erosion, and that's Cyrus' private palace. Cyrus was a big fan of plants, trees, and flowers. Around his palace and also around other palaces in this city, the evidence of more than 100 different species of plants have been discovered. In this reconstructed image, you can see the palace of Cyrus on the left, and you can see the gardens. He also had his own private garden portico, and it was bushy. For the ancient Persians, a tree with a stream of water running at its base was a symbol of eternity, or a symbol of eternal life. Now, going back to the private palace, there is a pillar in this palace, and you can see a writing right on top of this pillar. There are 4 lines. The first 2 lines are in the Elamite cuneiform writing system, and it says, "I am Cyrus, the king of the kings, the king of Achaemenid Empire." The second 2 lines also say the same thing, except they are in the Babylonian cuneiform handwriting system. Back in the 1800s, as excavations were taking place in the city of Babylon, a cylinder was accidentally discovered. A cylinder with more than 100 lines written in the Akkadian cuneiform language. It became known as the Cyrus cylinder, and it dated back to 2500 years ago. And today, this cylinder is kept in a British museum. Back in 539 BC, Cyrus invaded Babylon, and after he captured Babylon, according to the Neo-Babylonian traditions, he had to write one of these cylinders. On these cylinders, he basically explained what he was going to do and why he was the justified king of Babylon. Let's look at the image of another cylinder dating back to the times of Nabonidus, another king of Neo-Babylonian Empire, right before Cyrus. It was a tradition. I will quickly look at 3 paragraphs of this cylinder and their implications. At first, Cyrus introduces himself in line 20. "I am Cyrus, king of the world, great king, mighty king, king of Babylon, king of Sumer and Akkad, king of the 4 quarters, king of Anshan. My vast army marched into Babylon in peace. I did not permit anyone to frighten the people of Sumer and Akkad. I sought the welfare of the city of Babylon and all its sacred centers. I relieved their weariness and freed them from their service." Cyrus is using peaceful strategies over violence. He prefers being liked and respected, not being resented. The general strategy of Cyrus at this point is to bring all the nations of different languages and cultures together under one single empire. From Babylon to Assur to Susa, the sacred centers on the other side of Tigris, whose sanctuaries had been abandoned for a long time. I returned the images of the gods who had resided there to their places, and I let them dwell in eternal abodes. I gathered all their inhabitants, and I returned to them their dwellings. Two generations before Cyrus, one of the greatest kings of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, Nebuchadnezzar, invaded the kingdom of Judah. The king of Judah had failed to pay tribute to Nebuchadnezzar. He was also resistive to the Neo-Babylonian rule. Eventually, Nebuchadnezzar suppressed the rebellions and he took a lot of prisoners in different time periods. These Jewish prisoners were taken from Judah and were sent to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar wanted to train some of these prisoners as soldiers, send them back to Israel, and that plan failed as well. So these Jewish prisoners were kept in Babylon for a couple of generations until Cyrus arrived. And Cyrus kept his promise. He released them all. As a result, many of them went back to Israel and they rebuilt the temples that were destroyed by the Neo-Babylonian Empire. And very likely the Persians helped them to rebuild those temples. And quite a few of them spread across the empire. Some of them went to Susa and received administrative jobs. And some of them are the ancestors of modern-day Iranian Jews. We'll end this video looking at another structure in Passargadae, the audience palace. It is the palace where Cyrus had meetings with the top generals of the empire. And that is the tallest surviving pillar of this structure. Looking at the reconstructed model, we can see gardens and trees surrounding this palace, exactly similar to Cyrus's private palace. The rock or the pillar at the left of the structure has the same writing. It says, "I am Cyrus, the king of the kings, the king of the Achaemenid Empire."